Welcome to the RIT Study Abroad and Fellowships webinar on the Fulbright essays. We're going to be talking about how to write persuasive Fulbright essays. The agenda today is discussing some items to think about throughout the process, discussing the essay requirements, the short answer questions, specifically the study research statement of grant purpose, then the English teaching assistant statement of grant purpose, the personal statement, and finally, I'll be giving you some writing exercises to do. Before you begin writing at all, you should remember that the Fulbright's goal is to increase mutual understanding between the people of the United States and the people of other countries. This is something that you should demonstrate in all of your essays. Secondly, know your future goals. The Fulbright Award should be a building block, much like your education, of your future. So you must be able to articulate clearly how the Fulbright project, study, or ETA will fit into your long-term goals. And thirdly, show, don't tell. To be persuasive, make sure that you are backing up statements with evidence. For example, it is not enough to say, I have cross-cultural skills. Instead, give an example of how you have used your cross-cultural skills. Perhaps tell a story about when you navigated through a different culture successfully. Okay, now the essay requirements. I pulled these requirements straight from Fulbright's website. I encourage you to revisit the Fulbright website continually throughout your process to make sure that you are adhering to the formatting requirements. So, 2 formal essays are required in addition to short answer responses. First, here's the personal statement, and everybody's going to have to write this. It's a maximum of 1 page, single-spaced, 1-inch margins, Times New Roman 12-point font. Okay, and here it says to include on line 1, the personal statement, line 2, your name, country of application, and field of study, line 3, project title as it appears in the biographical data section of the application. Remember to follow these requirements, these guidelines, these rules strictly. If you do not, you will not even be considered for the award. For the statement of grant purpose for study research grants, it's a maximum of 2 pages single-spaced, 1-inch margins, Times New Roman 12-point font, and do not include any bibliographies, publications, citations, etc., except those that will fit in the 2-page limit. However, this does not mean you should not cite. You should, in fact, refer to important authors or ideas in your essays, and if you are going to do so, an in-text citation is sufficient. At the top of the page include line 1, statement of grant purpose, line 2, your name, country of application, and field of study. Line 3, the project title as it appears in the biographical data section of the application. Statement of grant purpose for ETA grants. This is a maximum of 1 page single-spaced, 1-inch margins, Times New Roman 12-point font. Again, this is different from the statement of grant purpose for study research grants. For ETAs, you are only allowed 1, not 2, single-spaced pages. At the top of each page include, on line 1, statement of grant purpose, on line 2, your name, country of application, and English teaching assistant program. Line 3, the project title as it appears in the biographical data section of the application. Even though these short answer questions are not technically essays, they're going to be just as carefully reviewed by the reviewers as your essays. Therefore, they are very important. So, make sure that you are clear and concise in these answers. Limit your response to about a paragraph. And again, reviewers are going to be reading these first before the rest of your application, so make sure you consider that carefully and make your reviewers want to read the rest of your application. First, they're going to ask you for an abstract or summary of the proposal. Here, you want to give the basics, what you're going to be doing, how you plan to do it, and what the outcome will be. Remember Fulbright's goal. In number 2, you are supposed to improve the mutual understandings of cultures. So remember that when you're answering question 2 about host country engagement. Okay, describe briefly how you engage with the host community. Give specific ideas for community engagement. I pulled that directly from the application. So be specific. It tells you to be specific, but also brief. Remember to keep it to about a paragraph. In number 3, it will ask you for plans upon return to the United States. Again, think back to my first slide. This connects to the idea that you must connect the Fulbright Award to your long-term goals throughout the application process. Fulbright is asking you here directly how the award will fit into your plans upon your return to the United States. Now we're going to talk about the Statement of Grant Purpose essay for research and study grant applications. This is what Fulbright's website says this essay is. Develop an intellectual, compelling, and feasible project or justification for pursuing a graduate degree program. This is the most important factor in presenting a successful application. The first step is to familiarize yourself with the country summary for the program to which you are applying. You should ensure that your statement of grant purpose fits the program guidelines for the host country. Okay, in this direction that Fulbright is giving you, they're telling you to familiarize yourself with the country summary. This is a clue to look to that country summary and see if they're asking for anything specific, and make sure that you give them that in your statement of grant purpose. Remember these 2 questions while you're writing your essay. You must answer, how is your project valid, and how is your project feasible? Essentially, why is your project important, and will you be able to achieve what you're trying to do in the length of about a year, which is typical for a Fulbright Award. Some general guidelines. Think of this essay as a formal project proposal. Make sure you have a thesis, a problem statement, which you situate in the current research in your introduction. Demonstrate how you solve the problem in the body of the essay. Address the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Think back to your typical 5-paragraph essays. They have an intro, 3 supporting paragraphs, and a conclusion. This may be a good way to organize your proposal. Make sure to address your methodology in the how. For example, if you're going to interview community members, talk about how you'll get access to your interview subjects. This is how Fulbright is going to be able to assess how feasible your project is. Make sure to address the following questions. Why is your project important? This is where I suggest you situate your problem in the current research. Do a mini literature review in the introduction to demonstrate to Fulbright that you've done your research, you know what the experts are saying about your problem, and you refer back to them. Remember, when you're citing authors, ideas, and experts, an in-text citation is sufficient. Secondly, how is your proposal unique, and why is the outcome significant? What are you contributing to the field that no one else has, and how will the outcome of your project change the field? Remember to address these things. Is the project realistic? Is your project feasible is another way to think about this. Again, Fulbright is going to fund you to complete your project in about a year time frame. you have to show them that what you set out to do is possible in that time frame. Is the site appropriate? Why this country and nowhere else? Because this award sends you abroad, and its purpose is to increase mutual understanding between the United States and other countries, you must be able to demonstrate that your project requires you to go abroad, not stay in the United States to complete it. Also, you need to discuss why this specific country and nowhere else. Who are your in-country contacts? This means who are your affiliates, and we'll discuss how to get a good affiliate in a different webinar. Are you linguistically qualified? In each country summary, there are language requirements, so make sure that you've read those requirements and that you either meet those qualifications, or if you do not, you tell Fulbright what you're going to do in the time between your application and your award period to meet those qualifications. For example, if you're required to have 2 years of college level Spanish, for example, make sure you're taking college level Spanish courses between your application and the award period if you do not have those 2 years. And lastly, are you academically qualified? Talk about how your academic background, your studies, have prepared you to answer the question that you're addressing in your grant proposal. For the English Teaching Award, Assistant Award, this is what Fulbright directs you to do. It says, carefully read the specific summary for the country to which you are applying. This is necessary for you to understand the nature of the program, and the specific requirements, since the design of the English Teaching Assistant Program varies from country to country. Again, Fulbright is making sure that you have read that country summary and know exactly what each country wants from their English teaching assistants. They say to address the following questions. Why this country? But remember, you cannot choose the location within a country. So again, you must show Fulbright that you have done research on the country and you are the right fit to be an English teaching assistant in that country. However, you cannot choose a specific city or town or village within that country, so do not get too specific or else Fulbright will look at that as a negative in your application. How are you qualified to teach English? Here, you must show that you have had some sort of teaching experience in your past and that you also are qualified to teach English. So to address the first thing, your teaching experience, if you do not have direct teaching experience, for example, being a graduate TA or tutoring your fellow students, tutoring younger students, tutoring children, perhaps you have coaching experience. Think about that experience that you have that has required you to communicate a skill to somebody else. To talk about your qualifications to teach English, this is where you want to show in your writing that you're qualified. So Fulbright is going to be even more demanding that your English communication skills come through in your application than in the other grant project proposal. What specific pedagogical tools will you use? Here, you must address how you are going to teach English. And because they're asking you specifically what pedagogical tools, make sure you know how to answer that question. Do some research and think about what pedagogical tools have been successful to teach English as a foreign language in the past. If the country allows it, what will your side project be? Remember, for the most part, English teaching assistants are only teaching for about 20 to 30 hours a week and have some ample extra time to be doing a side project. Fulbright wants your side project to engage with the community, so make sure that you address what that is in your essay. Now, going back to reading that country summary, some do not allow for a side project. Make sure you know this, because if you talk about a side project you want to do when your country does not allow that side project, then your application is not going to be looked at favorably. Here are some do's and don'ts for both the English Teaching Assistant Award and the Research Study Award. Do be clear, concise, and welcome feedback. Write intentionally. Use good word choice. And I say welcome feedback because you will most likely have to do many, many reviews and drafts of this essay. So please keep an open mind. Do talk about how you will engage the community. Remember Fulbright's goal. You are supposed to increase mutual understanding of cultures. So engaging the community will help you do this. This is very specific and will apply more for the ETA award, but also for the Research Study Award, you want to make sure you do address this in your application. Do refer back to Fulbright's goal. If not in how you're engaging with the community, perhaps your project will help specifically to increase that mutual understanding, and make sure you state directly how it's going to do that. Address the culture and politics of the country and how it will impact your project. This will show Fulbright that you've done your research, that you're serious, that you want the award. Showing them that you know the current political state, the current what's going on, current events, will make your project seem really relevant and fresh. Do not ignore potential challenges. Address some obvious challenges head on, or else your reviewers will be concerned about the feasibility of your project. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume that your reviewers know about your problem or your project. Don't use jargon, and be clear. Don't make reviewers search for information. Similarly, clearly state your intentions in the beginning of your essay. Don't take stylistic risks. Remember, this is a formal essay. You can take a more creative organization and be more stylistically original in your personal statement. So on to our personal statement. All applicants will have to write that one-page, single-spaced personal statement. Okay, from Fulbright, they say, this statement provides you with an opportunity to introduce yourself to the screening committee members on a personal level. The style is up to you, but the content should convey your background and your motivation for applying to the specific Fulbright program in question, and how this background relates to the proposed project and your future goals. Think about this as a chance to talk about yourself, your experience, your background, your passions, your motivations, your dreams. Remember those long-term goals. Remember that the Fulbright is a building block and will get you towards those long-term goals, and tell the committee how it's going to do that. Think of this as a blend of the personal and the professional. We like to call it a personal and intellectual biography. However, what it's not is a narrative of your CV or resume. Here are some do's and don'ts. Do have a theme. When telling your story and when talking about yourself, remember to maintain a theme throughout. This can connect your experiences with your passions and goals. However, do remember that it is an intellectual biography, so make sure to highlight your academic career and connect it to the rest of your life. Be creative. This is in contrast to the statement of grant purpose. Here, you can take those stylistic risks. However, you must be able to do it well. And if it comes across as phony or cheesy or too cliche, it's not going to cut it. That leads me to my next do. Do be authentic. If that stylistic risk you're taking doesn't feel like you, it's going to come across. So be honest, be yourself. In this personal statement, you are introducing yourself to the reader. Make them want to meet you and talk to you. Be likable. For example, you can talk about your weaknesses or failures here. You can show that, hey, I'm human. However, if you do that, make sure you can turn that weakness into a challenge that you've overcome, or the failure into a lesson that you've learned. Do reference books, courses, important people that have shaped your interests. So remember, this is an academic award. Your readers will likely be PhDs or highly educated academics. So make sure to reference those books, those courses, the important thinkers that have shaped your interests. Don'ts. Do not repeat things found in other areas of your application. You only have one page. So by repeating something, you're not only coming across as not carefully providing a good application, but you're also wasting an opportunity and being redundant. Avoid cliches or jargon. The cliche takes away from the uniqueness of your application. So, for example, you can, quote, value diversity, which is somewhat of a cliche. However, be specific about how you do this and talk about it differently. Avoid large generalizations and broad statements. For example, my trip to Antarctica changed my life. Okay, that's a really large generalization, really large statement that you've just made. Now talk about how it did that. Be specific. Lastly, if there's something in your resume or your application that would make the review committee concerned, you can use the personal statement to clear that up. The timeline for your application for these essays should be the following. From now until the end of May, free write and reflect. I'm going to give you some writing exercises on the next slide that you can use to help you do those free writes. But also reflect, maybe have a journal to just kind of jot down what you're thinking. This is the time to really come up with the ideas that are going to shape your essays. By mid-June, we'd like to see an outline of your essays. And after you've done that outline, please write your first drafts, because July 1st, first drafts are due. You can always write your personal statement first and have your statement of grant purpose kind of evolve throughout the summer if you are relying on some summer experience to inform your statement of grant purpose. In July and August, we're going to review, and you're going to redraft those essays many times. September 11th is our campus deadline. By then, your application should be complete. Not only the essays, but the biographical data as well, and those short answer questions. By September 11th, you're going to turn the application into us, and we are going to review it. And then by October 11th, we'll submit it to Fulbright. Here are some writing exercises that should help you get the juices flowing. The first one is, what is a quote that you identify with? How does this embody who you are? Secondly, what are 3 words that describe you and why? Third, how are you living your passion? Fourth, write a letter to your best friend about why you're applying to the Fulbright. This might actually help you think about how that Fulbright fits into your long-term goals. Who has had the biggest influence on you? How has this changed your goals? This could be something you talk about in your personal statement. So take some time and complete these writing exercises to help you prepare for writing your Fulbright essays. Good luck, and we look forward to seeing those first drafts. Thanks.